behavioral covenant. We're going to offer some small groups, both in the sanctuary and online, for reflection, discussion, and feedback. And then we're going to talk about the next steps. So that's what we'll do today. So, of course, there's a question, so why change? Why do anything different than what we have now? And in order to help answer that question, we'd like to read the current covenant, and we're going to share that between all of us. And so this is our current covenant. We, the members, staff, and ministers of the Olympia Unitarian Universalist Congregation, enter into this covenant as an expression of our commitment to each other. Because we value our congregation, we promise to enhance its health with our time, talent, energy, and financial resources, and honor our commitments here.
Because we seek to be a friendly and inclusive congregation, we promise to provide a safe and nurturing environment for all our members, young and old, assist those among us who have urgent needs for care and support, and provide opportunities for personal and spiritual growth.
Because we choose to walk together, we promise to create and support an organizational structure that is responsive, responsible, identifiable, and accessible. Share our gifts as we participate in the leadership of the congregation and encourage our congregational leaders to listen and speak openly, understand deeply, work with fairness, and serve with passion.
Because we strive to live our Unitarian Universalist principles, we promise to inform ourselves about and engage issues that concern our larger communities. So that's the current covenant. It is lovely, and we plan to keep the current covenant. It's not going away, okay? I want to say that really clearly, and you're going to hear that several more times, just in case it didn't sink in. I'm told that it was created in response to particular events that happened in the congregation. Some folks are nodding and can maybe even remember what those events were. It is also wordy. There's a lot of words in there. And it is vague in that the particular behaviors that we expect each other, that we expect of each other are not explicitly laid out. And this came to my awareness in my ministry with you these last years when the board created a non-covenantal behavior policy. So we created a process where if the covenant has been broken, there's a way to come back into right relationship, and there's a process and support for that to happen. So then the question comes, well, how do we know what's non-covenantal? How do we know when we've broken the covenant? How would you know? How would I know? How would anyone know? And that really caused me to reflect and think about and talk with my colleagues about adding a behavioral covenant to what we already have. The current covenant also uses "we will" language, which can be a very uniting process and uniting language. You know, we are one. It can suggest unity. It also diffuses the responsibility, right? And so what you're going to hear in the proposed behavioral covenant is "I will" language, because in reality, the only person we have any control over is ourselves. and our own behavior. And so, in my mind, it's a nice matching between the aspiration of our covenantal language around we will and the very particular and specific behavioral covenant, I will, and what we can expect of each other.
So as I'm Martha Nikoloff, and I use she, her pronouns, and I am part of the writing team that developed this draft behavioral covenant. I want to take a few minutes to take you through the process that the team used with Reverend Mary to develop this draft behavioral covenant that hopefully you've seen online and we're going to talk about today. Our charge as a writing team was to draft a document that would show specifically what covenantal behavior actually looks like in our congregation. So in the process of developing this document, we reviewed several things. First, we reviewed all the notes from the groups that participated in the workshop on covenant last October that Reverend Mary mentioned. We reviewed our current OUUC congregational covenant, which we all just read, our OUUC vision, mission, and ends or goals, our OUUC non-covenantal behavior policy, and a number of behavioral covenants from other congregations, which ranged in format from one that was 3 sentences to one that was pages and pages, which covered how I'm going to be in covenant with myself, with other members of the congregation, with the minister, with the DRE, with other staff, with the larger community, and so on. So you can see we had a range of examples, and each and every one of those documents honestly provided some helpful and useful ideas and constructs. But Reverend Mary was hopeful that we could craft a covenant that could be read at congregational meetings, which, so you can see the multi-page one drifted off a bit in terms of that hope. So we proceeded with that in mind. We decided that our goals would be brevity, positive and aspirational statements, and using our mission, words, and congregational ends or goals as a framework. So with that in mind, we divided up our work. We each began to write possible behavioral statements, which we then shared with each other as a team. We emailed, we met together on Zoom, we wrote and worked individually some more. We conferred again with Reverend Mary. We wrote, we Zoomed, we shared, we edited. You get the picture. And ultimately, we came up with 10 statements and some examples of behavior for each of those statements. As Reverend Mary mentioned, we chose the I will format because we wanted to acknowledge our individual responsibility for our own behavior. We added the examples in an effort to explain the intent and meaning of the 10 statements, but want to be clear that the examples are not intended in any way to be an exhaustive list, but rather are some thoughts and ideas about the meaning of the 10 statements.
So now we're going to go through the proposal. And the first one I want to mention is I am proposing a change to the current covenant. And it's a change in one word. And it's a change from the word walk to the word journey. And I'm proposing that because walk is ableist language. It assumes that we can all walk. And I know that it can be a metaphor as well. My thinking about that is this is a covenant. This is where we want to be as inclusive and as welcoming as possible. And there is a good alternative, actually a word journeying that has more meaning, I think, and a richer, deeper meaning. So what I'm proposing is that the covenant would say, because we choose to journey together, we promise to create and support an organizational structure that is responsive, responsible, identifiable, and accessible, share our gifts as we participate in the leadership of the congregation, and encourage our congregational leaders to listen and speak openly understand deeply, work with fairness, and serve with passion. And that's the only change to the current covenant we're proposing. The behavioral covenant will be an addition. I promised you would hear that again, didn't I?
So we're going to read the draft behavioral covenant, and Janae and I will start with reading the proposed introduction. As members, friends, staff, and ministers of OUUC, we are united in our commitment to treat one another with dignity and love. This behavioral covenant formalizes our commitment. It requires making promises and trusting that we will embrace those promises. We know we will make mistakes and disappoint one another, but when we cause harm, we promise to take the necessary steps to return to right relationship.
This behavioral covenant is a path for ensuring that we at OUUC will be seen, heard, and cared for, and accompanied on our journey. We bring this behavioral covenant into all situations and interactions as we work together towards fulfilling our vision, mission, and goals. It will guide us in becoming our best selves within, among, beyond, and throughout our congregation. When we make these sacred promises to each other, we become the congregation we aspire to be.
bear with us while we count and divide you all up.
Yeah, so I'm going to go over here in the choir seats.
Yeah, and I'll head over to that corner back there.
And you want to be up here,
We
Martha?
can stay up here.
Okay. And we can meet.
Yep.
I think if you can divide yourselves up, so we're sort of relatively even numbers, so that everybody gets an opportunity to talk. I have printed copies of the draft. If you would like to have that, look at it.
I have to share, there's about 16, I think.
I should be pretty loud.
Thank you. Ooh, be careful, Jenny.
Just so you know, my physical therapist, I have some itis something or other in the hip, and he says all the time, all the time.
Yeah, good
So,
for you.
anyway, that's.
I'm glad you're following.
Yeah.
They are back, okay.
It's hard to break in on the other side.
So can we come back together again? We could have done this longer, huh?
It was hard to break in on the conversation.
Yes, thank you, Teresa.
Here's Troy's mic.
I don't think we're gonna do questions. I think we'll just be done.
Thanks for doing it, Martha. Hard work.
Whew, we could have done this longer, huh? Same.
I'd like to know that.
I was disappointed. I thought those were going to be candy.
We're listening to your tummy, huh?
I'll see you Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah, we're just gonna end here. So thank you to those online for engaging in breakout rooms with Rich and Helen. And thank you to those here in the sanctuary for engaging so deeply with Janae and Martha and I. So if you have any questions or any other feedback you'd like to offer, please feel free to email me. You can also email a member of the writing team, and those will all be taken into consideration. So this is what the next steps look like. The writing team is going to take into consideration all the feedback that we've gathered today and make any revisions that might be needed. Then that draft will go to the next board meeting, which will be on April 13th. Now, the board saw this original draft at their last board meeting, and board members gave some feedback then. There's already been a few changes that the writing team has acknowledged that need to be made, not anything major, but a few. So it'll go to the board meeting on April 13th. And then the board is going to discuss an adoption process. There's a question about, do we have a congregational vote? Does the board adopt it? How do we go about that? And there's pros and cons to each of those things, right? A congregational vote is only for members. We want this to be for everyone who participates. And does that, how do we make sure that folks know what we're recovenanting with each other about? And then we're planning to have another forum the beginning of May, the first Sunday in May, on May 7th, to present the final draft and talk about some closure then. So that's what we're looking at. So I know it's been a long morning for those of you who have been here and who have been online, and want to acknowledge that it might be lunchtime for you all. So I want to express my gratitude to Martha and Janae and Helen and Rich for all the work that they have done on this. They have been a marvelous team and marvelous collaborators in really taking to heart what's the intention here and how can we best make our covenant manifest in words so that we can make it manifest in our being. And thank you all so much, online and on-site, for engaging so deeply in this important work that we do together. So I'll extinguish our chalice then with these words from Krista Taves. It is our work shared with each other in covenant that creates and sustains this beloved community. We extinguish this chalice, but its light lives on in the directions we have chosen today. The light of this faith lives on in us together, in our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits, until we meet again. Amen, and blessed be. Thank you all.